Thank you, Francesco, for accepting our interview. Can you just introduce yourself briefly?
Yes, my name is Francesco Vacchiano. I'm a psychologist. I'm a cultural anthropologist. In this moment of my life, I'm living in Lisbon, in Portugal, where I work at the Institute of Social Sciences of the University of Lisbon as a researcher.
So you have a special expertise on this theme, migration and trafficking. Can you tell us something about your work and the people that you usually meet?
I don't know whether I have an expertise or not. Actually, it happened that I worked with immigrants when I was in Italy from 1996 on in a center for ethnopsychiatry in my hometown, which is Turin, a center dedicated to Frantz Fanon, a Frantz Fanon center that we established with our colleagues towards the half of the 90s. And in this work, I started to meet people from very different origins, coming to Italy in migration processes. And among them, there were also people who were addressed to us as psychologists and psychiatrists by the different groups who helps people to get out of the network of trafficking. So in the programs of help and social insertion of victims of trafficking. So we started to meet and help psychologically those people, and also meeting the caregivers and social service providers in order to reflect together upon the phenomenon and its psychological outcomes.
What have you been learning about these two phenomena, trafficking and migration?
Yeah, I mean, starting from this work and later on trying to go in depth in the reflection on it through my work as a researcher, I mean, trafficking is very much implanted on migration, and particularly on the wish of people to migrate. People want to go elsewhere in order to find a better life, and because they think that the resources they have at home are not enough to change their situation. So they want to go abroad, but they cannot. They can't. And basically the reason is that migration and legal migration is a very narrow path, and there are increasingly forms of illegalization of mobility. So people cannot simply travel, cannot simply get a passport, get a visa, buy a ticket and go abroad, go elsewhere. And so people are interested. This wish of people to move is intercepted by networks, by criminal networks, which are networks of trafficking, which exploit the desire of the people to a better life and to sell, let's say they sell their services as a kind of travel agency, illegal travel agency. But are services that are paid at a heavy price, which is basically a price paid through the immigrants' bodies. Let's say the people need to work, have to work under a condition of exploitation in order to pay some debts that are contracted with the trafficking organization in order to travel simply. I see really at the basis of human trafficking the impossibility to move legally as a powerful factor which explains this phenomenon, and the possibility of the network of trafficking to sell their criminal activities as something which is required by people.
Today we find that world is not a safe place for every human being to live, all the most for the girls and the women. Addressing to this issue, how do you see women and the girls, and what is your steps for preventing them or helping them?
While trafficking is affecting both women and men, I think that women are in a difficult position for a twofold reason. On the one hand, it is because very often women are less opportunities in their countries of origin and are in the social structure are already in less advantageous positions on the one hand. On the other hand, women are more exposed during their perilous journeys to sexual violence and exploitation, and also for prostitution and so on. So I think that in the case of women, the risk is, if possible, increased by their marginal position in the societies of origins that are in many cases authoritarian societies in which normally the gender balance is unequal. But the process of illegal migration or illegalized migration do even increase this marginal position and this lack of alternatives and possibilities.
What the receiving countries should learn to have, to make the diversity a value and not just an obstacle.
I mean, we need to think to our society as complex societies. And in many cases, European societies, and particularly Italy, but not just Italy, are being built upon an idea of homogeneity, which is completely artificial. I mean, it's just a rhetorical construction. Italy is not homogeneous, and we know it very well, but the narrative about the national identity is that we are basically one nation, one people, with specific traditions that we can identify quite easily, and mainly white, which is actually absolutely not true. And we really need to rethink to our membership, to our national construction, national building process. I would like to add that for many European countries, national identity, colonialism was a very violent and important experience. I mean, in the case of Italy, colonialism is just an extension of the process of national unification, which has produced a national identity in contrast with another, which is not Italian and not white. We need really to rethink this, and in these days we know the debate about a new law or nationality, and how this debate is important to reshape our basics, the basic fundamentals of our idea of what we are. This is absolutely important, and that's the first step to build a more inclusive society.
We hope so. Thank you very much, and good luck for your work.
Thank you to you.